There is a danger to real masculine strength if it is not guided by higher principles and inner clarity. It can become destructive. But avoiding strength altogether, which is what modern society often encourages, is not the answer. That just leads to weakness and drift. We need men who are both strong and deeply principled, who have faced their own inner shadows and can stand firm for what is true.
Welcome to the Undead Sages podcast, where we travel back in time to talk to long-dead wise men and women. Today is the fourth and final installment in a series of discussions about masculinity. My name is Merijn de Haen, and in this interview, we'll be talking to Julius Evola. Julius Evola was an Italian philosopher, esotericist, and critic of modernity, known for his radical traditionalism and metaphysical worldview. Active in the 20th century, he drew from Eastern and Western spiritual traditions, rejecting liberalism, materialism, and egalitarianism in favor of inner discipline, hierarchy, and transcendent order. Controversial and often misunderstood, Evola called for a spiritual elite to rise above the ruins of the modern world. Please welcome to our podcast, Julius Evola.
You're most welcome. It is rare to be engaged not with idle curiosity, but with seriousness of spirit. If even a few today still ask the deeper questions of origin, of essence, of destiny, then perhaps not all is lost.
Julius Evola, tell us who you are.
I'm Julius Evola, born in Rome, 1898. The old world I knew of monarchy, aristocracy, and sacred tradition was falling apart. I looked for something solid in all that chaos, something eternal. Art, then philosophy, and the ancient wisdom of East and West became my world. My books, like Revolt Against the Modern World and Ride the Tiger, show my deep rejection of modern decline and my call for a return to a higher, heroic spirit. A war injury in 1945 paralyzed me, but I kept writing and thinking in Rome until I died in 1974. My life was about holding fast to true, unchanging principles in an age of decay.
You often describe the modern world as decaying. What does that mean? And why are you so critical of ideas like liberalism, socialism, and democracy?
These modern ideas, for all their talk of freedom and progress, actually crush the human spirit. They only see life on a flat, material level and cut us off from anything higher or sacred. Liberalism says you're free to choose anything, but freedom without real purpose or inner strength just leads to confusion and an empty life. It gives you a supermarket of choices, but no real meaning. Socialism cares about material things and class struggles. It might try to fix some unfairness, but it forgets that the soul needs more than just economic solutions or shared stuff. It aims for an equality that stops people from striving for anything greater. Democracy listens to the crowd, but the crowd usually wants what is easy and comfortable, not what is truly good or noble. So leaders end up just following popular opinion or tricking people with empty words rather than guiding them to something higher. All these systems see man as just a creature of this world. I say man is meant for more. He is meant to reach for something beyond himself.
If these modern systems are failing, what's your alternative?
The alternative is not some new trick. It is about remembering timeless truths. A true society would be led by people genuinely worthy, not because they're popular or rich, but because they have a real inner strength, wisdom, and a connection to something sacred. They'd be leaders who have faced themselves and come through stronger. In such a society, people would find their natural place, doing work that fits their true nature, making their work a path of growth, not just a job. Real education would shape the soul, not just fill heads with facts. And freedom would not just be about doing whatever you want. It would be the harder freedom of becoming who you truly are deep down and living up to your highest potential.
This idea of freedom as fulfilling one's true form sounds very different and maybe restrictive compared to how we see freedom today. How would your ideal society, with its sacred authority, not just turn into another tyranny?
That is the real danger, and a fair question. Yes, my idea of freedom, living your true inner purpose, is a world away from just picking a lifestyle. It can sound like a cage to modern ears. The only defense against this ideal system turning into tyranny is if the leaders and the people who support them are genuinely living by these higher principles from the inside out. Power without inner truth, without real self-mastery, always rots and becomes oppressive. This is not about a perfect system. No such thing exists. It is about having leaders and a culture that truly value inequality and spiritual strength. If that inner core is lost, then yes, it becomes tyranny.
But people are often deceptive, especially when chasing power. How can you ensure this inner purity in leaders?
You're right. People often lie and grab for power. History, even in religious groups, shows this clearly. That is why I do not believe in perfect systems. Instead, we need to cultivate sharp discernment, a way to tell the real from the fake. We need to recognize leaders who have true substance, who do not just talk a good game, but live with integrity and are willing to sacrifice for principles. This isn't easy. It means developing your own inner clarity so you're not easily fooled, especially by yourself.
You've spoken a lot about masculinity. How does that fit into your view of the world?
For me, masculinity is much more than just being biologically male. It is an inner spiritual force, a kind of clear, steady light. It is about inner firmness, clarity of mind, self-control, and a sense of inner authority. Modern society often tries to weaken this, promoting softness and conformity, but real manhood is about developing this inner strength and dedicating yourself to something higher than your own comfort or desires.
Your work is often called dark or hard to understand. What's your response to that, especially concerning your ideas on masculinity?
It is understandable if people find my work challenging. I do not offer easy comforts or simple solutions. I am deeply critical of modern society and its illusions. I talk about the need for discipline, for facing difficult truths, for striving for something beyond the everyday. This can seem dark if you're looking for reassurance. As for masculinity, yes, my view is not the popular one. I speak of a strong, focused, sometimes severe kind of manhood, one that embraces inner struggle, self-mastery, and isn't afraid of solitude or hardship. There is a danger to real masculine strength if it is not guided by higher principles and inner clarity. It can become destructive. But avoiding strength altogether, which is what modern society often encourages, is not the answer. That just leads to weakness and drift. We need men who are both strong and deeply principled, who have faced their own inner shadows and can stand firm for what is true.
Can you describe these positive masculine traits more simply?
Certainly. Think of them as the qualities of inner character. 1. Stillness, a deep inner calm and steadiness, not being easily rattled by chaos. Second, discipline, willingly organizing your inner self, mastering your impulses for a higher purpose. Third, edge, the ability to see clearly and act decisively when it matters, to protect what is valuable. It is like a sharp tool used wisely. 4. Clarity, seeing things as they truly are without wishful thinking or illusions. 5th, solitude, not loneliness but the ability to be alone with yourself, to connect with your own depths and find your own center. And finally, responsibility, taking ownership, standing firm for something greater than yourself, and carrying your share of the weight.
And perhaps a seventh trait could be unity, where a man is truly whole, his actions matching his deepest self.
Yes, that is very well put. Unity is essential. It is when a man is no longer divided within himself. His thoughts, feelings, actions, and deepest principles all line up. He's not pretending or playing a role. He's authentically himself. This isn't about being perfect, but about being true to your core. This inner wholeness brings a quiet, solid strength and a deep sense of peace, even in difficult times. It is the mark of a man who truly knows himself and lives from that center.
How does this masculine principle relate to the feminine?
The feminine principle is different but equally important. Think of it as the moon to the sun. It is receptive, deep, mysterious, connected to life's cycles and inner worlds. They are not in conflict. They complete each other like two sides of a whole. Traditional societies understood this balance. Modern thinking often tries to erase these natural differences, which ends up harming both men and women, making them less than they could be. We need to honor this polarity, not fight it.
You talk about these as deep principles, but people are all different. Are you saying all men must be the same, or is this an ideal?
I'm talking about deep underlying patterns or ideals, not a rigid set of rules for how every single man should behave. Of course, individuals vary greatly, but these core masculine qualities, like inner firmness, clarity, and a drive towards something higher, point to a direction for inner development, a kind of spiritual backbone that men can cultivate. It is about awakening, an inner orientation, not forcing everyone into the same mold.
When you talk about metaphysics or truth, I find it too absolute, too rigid. Such grand ideas can sometimes harm people by forcing them into boxes.
I understand that caution. You're right. Big theories, if they become rigid dogma forced on everyone, can do a lot of damage. Truth used as a weapon is a terrible thing. My aim is not to hand down a fixed system that everyone must obey. It is more like pointing a finger, suggesting there is a deeper reality, a more solid foundation for life that people can connect with if they feel something vital is missing in the modern world. It is an invitation for those who are searching, not a command.
I guess, for me, the ultimate why in life is love. Not simply the attraction between man and woman, or the other forms of love the Greeks came up with, but the love that emanates from the mystery at our cores, that impels us, everything, forward, and that is filtered through the prism of our inner understanding to help us make sense of the world, for good or ill. Our job can be to clean that prism as well as possible so that it most accurately reflects the purity of the love shining through me.
What you describe is not softness. It is not indulgence or mere sentiment. You speak of love as ontological force, as the current that is, before we name it, before we split it into categories. This is not the love of comfort, but of truth itself. You say it is filtered through the prism of our understanding, and you are right. We do not receive it in purity unless we work to purify the lens. That is where our paths meet, for where I speak of discipline, initiation, inner sovereignty, you speak of cleaning the prism. It is the same labor, only your word is gentler and perhaps wiser. You call it love, I call it alignment with the eternal. But maybe those are not different things. Maybe the eternal is love when it is allowed to shine fully. Not the love that seeks to possess or to soothe, but the love that burns away the false, that binds without holding, that knows us before we know ourselves. So yes, that can be your why. And if a man or woman lives in such a way that this love shines through them, clear, undistorted, whole, then they are already walking the vertical path I speak of, even if they never read a single word of metaphysics. Let us then agree on this. Whatever name you give it, love, truth, being, God, it calls us to remember, to purify, and to serve.
Aren't there already many spiritual paths and traditions available today? Monastic orders, meditation groups, mystical teachings that offer this kind of guidance.
Yes, you are right. Many of these ancient streams of wisdom still exist. You can find monasteries, Sufi groups, Buddhist teachers, and others who try to keep these deeper truths alive. My main concern is that in our noisy, materialistic modern world, these paths are often pushed to the margins, ignored, or watered down into something superficial. They become just another lifestyle choice instead of a demanding path to real transformation. So while they are there, we need a culture that truly values this kind of inner work and helps people find their way to it.
For our final question today, can you put it all together and explain to me in plain terms what we've missed about your outlook on life?
Well, what people often miss about my outlook is that beneath the dense language, the severe tone, and the uncompromising stance, I am not offering a doctrine to control others. I am offering a path, one that begins with the individual who dares to ask, what is real? What is eternal? And how do I live in alignment with it, no matter the cost? I do not hate the world. I see that it has forgotten its depth. It chases freedom but loses direction. It worships choice but forgets essence. It seeks comfort and novelty and stimulation, and it grows hollow. I speak from grief, yes, and rage sometimes, but also from a kind of love. A love for what is noble, sacred, unchanging. People think I call for obedience. I do not. I call for inner sovereignty. A man or woman who walks my path is not a servant. They are formed, forged, tested by silence, solitude, and struggle, until they carry themselves from the inside, not easily swayed, not deceived, not broken by chaos. And I am not trying to drag the world backward. I know the past is gone. I simply believe that truth does not age. The axis that held ancient Rome, the Vedas, the Tao, it is still here, waiting. And anyone, today, now, can live in reference to it. Quietly, without a spectacle, but with dignity. So what is my outlook? That the world will go its way, but a few will hear a different call, and they will stand, not because it is popular or practical, but because something unseen serves to be served. That is what I lived for, not to conquer the world, but to remember what holds it together.
Julius Evola, it's been an honor having you on the podcast.
The honor is mine. for the opportunity to speak not just to agreement, but to questioning. That is where real dialogue begins. If my words have stirred something, resisted something, or perhaps clarified something, then the task has not been in vain. May those who hear this remember, the world changes, collapses, reinvents itself, but the axis, the inner, the eternal, remains. Find it, stand by it, be it. Farewell for now.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the Undead Sages podcast. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your friends, rate the episode, leave a comment, and subscribe to the podcast.